everybody, and welcome to the second episode of The Film is Okie Dokie, the show where we watch a movie and determine if it's okie dokie. I'm Tommy. With me is CJ. CJ, how are you?
I'm doing well, now fresh off of no morning voice, so that's good. That's good.
Okay, can we talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Go ahead.
CJ was like, okay, I'll be ready to record at this time. I need to warm up my voice because I've got morning voice. And I get that. I get morning voice. Everyone gets morning voice. And we were like, let's just chat for a few minutes or so beforehand until, we're warmed up. And CJ, your morning voice is like 2 octaves deeper. Like, can you try and hit that like on purpose right now as an example?
All right, hang on. Oh, yeah, I can't. It's like super like, it's like so out of my range. It's like all I can get is this like very shallow like chattering sound.
It was
I don't know how
the
to
most
explain
baritone of baritone I've ever heard.
Yeah, I actually have a recording of it because I sent it. Maybe we can insert it here, but I sent it to my friend who's a doctor of music. Shout out Dayman. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm not like an expert on this, but your vocal cords expand and contract, and I think this is just an extreme case. When you sleep, they like stretch or fold or something."
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I have a recording of it at its like most quintessential. And it's funny because I don't do anything different, Like usually my voice is much higher, Like I can go higher than this. It's just funny. It's like, oh, when I first wake up, it's like, I owe my soul to the company store. I can't even do it.
It was absurd, to be honest. Like, it was incredible. I could not believe what I was hearing. But
yeah, so that was fun. That was we had to take like 15 minutes to get rid of it.
Yeah, that was something. But how you been doing?
I'm doing well. It's for us, it's like between Christmas and New Year's, so it's like that weird time of the year where people don't care about anything and then suddenly they care about it being a new year again. But otherwise, actually, I'm really excited because I'm about to see a movie that I've never seen before.
Yeah. Do you wanna talk about the movie, or should I talk about what we're doing?
You talk about what we're doing, and then I'll hop in.
All right. So today we're watching Jurassic Park, which is a movie I've brought to the table. It's just to talk about my background with it super briefly, and then we can go more into my background and CJ's background. But it's one of my all-time favorite movies. All time. Just absolutely love this movie. And I've seen it so many times. CJ, what's your experience with this movie?
I've never seen it before. Okay. Fun fact, I've actually almost seen it twice. So, in what year was it? I had what was her name? Mrs. L. I forget her name.
Mrs. L, that means it was 2002, man.
It was, it was 2007. 2007. And she was my art teacher, and she left. She had like some kind of like family emergency, and we had a substitute for a week, and she left 2 tapes. She left Donald Duck and the art I don't remember what that movie was.
Oh, is it the math video that he's a part of?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's not a long video, by the way, and those periods were 40 minutes long. So we saw that 4 times, and then on the last day, we watched the end of Donald Duck again, and then he put on Jurassic Park, and we got through the intro title sequence, and then I really racked my brain trying to remember if I could remember anything about the movie. I think that the beginning of the movie is like a Jeep. So okay. I remember a Jeep, and then the bell rang and we had to leave. Okay. So all I know about Jurassic Park is all I've seen is the Jeep. So maybe the Jeep is really important. I think the Jeep is going to be a big plot point because it opened the movie. The second time I almost watched Jurassic Park, I was on a plane and I think it was yes, it was a JetBlue flight. And if you didn't know, and this was years ago, but the big gimmick about JetBlue flights was that they had in-flight DirecTV. You ever been on a JetBlue flight?
No, I've been on flights that like I can watch movies on, but never JetBlue.
They had like TVs in the headrest in front of you.
Okay.
And you had like 30 or 40 channels. And it's actually like not bad to pass the time. It's how I got my secret to travel for plane travel is I just do stuff that I know just passes time. And TV does that. Like time, like having like a time bar telling you how much time has passed helps me travel on like long flights.
Mm-hmm.
So especially like texting that have like timestamps when messages were sent, that helps me a lot. Because I'm like, oh my god, I started talking to Tommy at like 8:30 and it's already 9:15. It's like, oh cool, like it's going really fast.
I get what you're saying, but I have it the opposite way, where we could do that and I'd be like, oh my god, it's only 9:15. That was 45 minutes ago and I have another hour and a half. Oh lord, I'm only a third of the way through this, you know?
No, I'm like positive. I'm like, dude, I'm a third of the way through. This is awesome. Time goes so fast. As opposed to like playing a game where I'm like, how much time has gone by? How much time has gone by? How much time has gone by? I like lose my mind. So we were on a plane and it was a flight to Orlando. We were going to see my grandparents in Florida, and on the plane, the TV wasn't working. So they unlocked all the movies because you could pay for movies, right? They unlocked all the movies, and they said, so we can't unlock all the movies because there's kids on the flight. I don't know what that meant. So they gave us 3 options. You could choose The Marine with John Cena.
Oh, great movie.
Which I did pick. You could watch I think it was Love Actually.
Oh, that's the Christmas one?
That's the one that has Andrew Lincoln, and it's not a romantic movie. If you watch it, it's kind of creepy.
Is that the one with that has the scene? I've never seen it. The one where the guy's standing outside with the like poster boards, who's like, "Don't tell them I'm here. Say it's Christmas Carolers."
But by cultural osmosis and an AT&T commercial starring the 2 main principal actors from Scrubs, yes, I believe that is from Love Actually, but I have also not seen Love Actually.
Okay.
The third movie you could pick was Jurassic Park, and I believe the person in the chair next to me, or my mom, picked Jurassic Park. So we were like 3 to a row. And so I was in the window, my mom was in the middle, and the guy on the aisle picked Jurassic Park. And all I saw was the Jeep, and I'm like, yeah, that's Jurassic Park, all right. And then I watched The Marine.
That's amazing.
But I had a 33% chance to, even if you think about it, because I wasn't going to pick Love Actually as a child, I had a 50% chance to pick Jurassic Park.
I mean, actually, if we want to go all, and this actually transitions kind of into something with Jurassic Park, if we want to get all Monty Hall problem on this, you kind of actually had a 2/3 chance.
Oh, right. There you go.
Yeah. But no, if Jurassic Park were an option, like I typically will fly Southwest because I'm like a rewards member with them or whatever. And they have a whole list of movies you can watch on your phone in flight for free. If Jurassic Park were one of them, I would watch it every time. Even if like, you know, I'm a round trip flight and I'm flying like twice within 5 days, I would watch it both times.
Okay, that's commitment.
It's I guess that transitions well into my experience with this movie. I first saw Jurassic Park when I was little. I remember my sister, her bedroom was the hangout when I was little. She had a TV in her room and she had a lofted bed, and we would sit under the lofted bed and look up at the mounted TV. It was like a small CRT that I don't know how we had it mounted onto the wall, but there was like a stand on the wall so she could watch it from her lofted bed. And we would watch so many movies on that TV. And I remember being shown Jurassic Park when I was really little. I had to have been like 5 or something. It was so irresponsible. But I remember watching it then, and you know, you're a child, so you're freaked out by the littlest things, even if they're not scary. And only a few years later, one of my friends, in hindsight, they must have been rich, because in like 2002, they had one of those cars with a DVD player in it.
Okay. Yeah.
And
like how I watched Freaky Friday.
Yeah. Or maybe it wasn't DVD, but it was VHS, whatever. We could watch movies in it. And his dad put on Jurassic Park, and there's one scene, I won't spoil it, but I knew it was coming, and his dad mentioned like, oh, this is the scene where whatever happens, and I freaked out. I was definitely a pretty big chicken shit as a child, and like the smallest thing, like we talked about last time with the Muppets 4D, like freaking me out. I mean, like there's something kind of, it's not as harmless as Fozzie spraying a water flower on you, but there was something in it that just completely freaked me the fuck out. And just knowing it was coming, I started like screaming and crying in the car with my friends and my friend's dad. And my friend's dad, in hindsight, was probably like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? But
some kind of Vietnam flashback.
Yeah. But then I ended up watching it again as a teenager. But then my most fond and formative experience with this movie was, I'm not sure if you know this, it was remastered and re-released in 2013 for its 20-year anniversary.
I did not.
Yeah, and my dad and he and I, long story short, we really bonded around 2012, 2013 over movies and basketball. And this was the movie that we went and saw. And both of us were like, my God, Jurassic Park is like top 5 all-time films. And it's just, ever since then, I watch this movie any chance I can get. It's just so goddamn good.
That's good, man. Like, I totally get that. I think that, like, we were talking about this in the context of video games before we got started. And I think this is sort of like where I'm at and why, like, this hasn't come up for me. Like, why haven't I seen this movie? I've heard this line about like politics and religion or whatever. When you're a kid, your parents' blank is your blank. So when you are a kid, your parents' politics are your politics. When you're a kid, your parents' religion is your religion, because that's all you have. That's that's their sphere of influence. It's not a Venn diagram when you're little. It's a concentric circle, right? It's overlapping spheres. So, like, my parents didn't buy Jurassic Park on VHS. We didn't have premium cable. I think I mentioned that the last time. And the movies they did buy, most of the time, they were either kids' movies that we went and saw in the movie theater, or they were movies that played on, you know, CBS, ABC, Fox, WB, which is the Warner Brothers channel, for those of you who don't know, or PBS, which were all over the air at the time. So, like, how did I miss it as a kid? I missed it as a kid because we just didn't own it. You know, my dad owned every Western ever. Ask me about an obscure Western, and yeah, I've seen it. But, like, popular movie from the 90s? They weren't going to see movies in the 90s because they had kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it kind of shook out for them. So, not saying that parents with kids can't go to the movies, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's like, my movies were my parents' movies. So I have this huge, like, back catalog, or I guess not back catalog, but like movies in my repertoire that are like older. That's like, why have you seen that? Or like, why haven't you seen these newer things? And the same thing with video games. We were talking about it in the context of video games. Why didn't I play Ocarina of Time? Because I was 6 and my parents didn't buy it for me.
Yeah, I hear that. It's so funny you talk about that for 2 reasons. First off, because I have to say, CJ has seen every goddamn cowboy movie to exist under the sun.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I thought that I, as someone who's living in the year 2023 and was born in 1996, I thought that I had like an extensive cowboy movie knowledge because I've seen like a handful of them,
Yeah.
and like I watched The Rifleman a lot growing up, and I'm just like, I could talk to any of my peers my age, and I can guarantee maybe one person will have seen one or two of them. CJ has seen every single fucking cowboy movie.
Okay, well, I'm gonna flex here. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to name a year between when did John Wayne start? We'll just say 1935, okay?
Oh my God. That's so
and
long
1970 ago. And 1976. Pick a year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Go up, and I'm not cheating. Go look at John Wayne's filmography on Wikipedia. Pick a year, and I will tell you all of the John Wayne movies that came out in that year.
Okay. I'm pulling it up.
No cheatsy doodlin'.
Right.
Honor system.
How about we do 1955?
1955. Okay, so Hondo was 1953, which is one of my favorite movies ever. By the way, they shot that movie in 3D, and they had to go out into the desert with this like 500-pound camera that they carried around with pallbearers. Really funny. He was the captain in the Sea Chase.
That is a 1955 movie, yeah. You were right about Hondo in 1953. By the way,
he played the captain in Blood Alley. Was that 1955?
Yeah, that's 1955.
Yeah. By the way,
there's one other between them.
One other one. Okay. It wasn't The Searchers. That was 56. It wasn't that really racist when he was Temujin and The Conqueror. Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, that was also 56.
Okay. Is this a weasel call? Was this a movie?
Yeah.
Or
wait.
Was a
wait. Oh, wait. Is this a... Maybe it's a movie. Notes. Oh, notes. The note says TV series, but it's under the what's it called? What? This makes no sense. It's under the movie section, but there's a note that says TV series episode.
Yeah. The Screen Director's Playhouse.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah. John Ford. Funny enough,
yeah,
John Ford used to make fun of John Wayne for not having served in the military, but playing all of these fucking like big tough military guys. So after a certain point, he just stopped playing like military people with John Ford.
That's ridiculous. I'm saying that's ridiculous, not about this John Ford story. That's ridiculous that you ended up getting that.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, what the hell?
Yeah, man. He was fucking Genghis Khan in 1956, dude. He was Genghis Khan, and nobody batted an eye.
Yeah, that's absurd. That's like my grandpa's favorite thing to talk about is John Wayne as Genghis Khan. And like some commercial where he's like, that is inoffensive or something about that, about like peanuts or pistachios or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
we really let that happen.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms. But you mentioned bringing kids to movie theaters, and I just wanted to tell a story. I don't know if I told you about this. Earlier this month, I went and saw Godzilla -1, which I did tell you about. I told you how fantastic it is.
Yes.
But I had my two worst movie theater experiences of all time in the past 2 months. Okay. And the first one, I thought, oh, well, this is hands down my worst movie theater experience. There's no way this will be topped. And that was when I saw Killers of the Flower Moon. Just, unruly people there as well.
Really quick.
Yeah.
I really, really want to see Killers of the Flower Moon for something I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to see it, I'm going to see it in the next 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
But to rent it right now is $20.
Mm-hmm.
I want that movie to be so good. Is it worth renting it for $20?
I mean, I don't know. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. It's really good. I would never pay $20 to rent a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I know what you're talking about for wanting to get it in. Is it that project you mentioned to me about?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's up to you and how you spend your own money and how much you like. I would like the most I would pay to rent a movie is like at most $5.
Yeah. And that's where it eventually will go down to.
Mm-hmm.
Like Oppenheimer's at $5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry, I cut you off. Continue.
No,
please.
You're totally good. But when I saw Godzilla -1, you mentioned parents don't bring their kids to movies. Someone brought a kid, and I know this kid was less than 5 because I have a niece who's 5, and this kid was 100% younger than her. Someone brought like a 4-year-old, 3 or 4-year-old to fucking Godzilla -1, a movie that's subtitled. This kid can't even read, and they brought this kid to it. In the entire movie, this kid is just talking and making noises and walking around the theater and screaming and whatever. And the parents were doing nothing. And normally I would have gone up and said something, or because that's just ridiculous. You know, it was a pretty packed theater, or I would have gotten in like an usher or whatever. But I'm like, I can't do anything because I'm so engrossed in this movie and it's subtitled. I don't want to miss anything, you know? And I was like, I'm just gonna grit my teeth and bear it. And it was just ridiculous bringing this child to this movie. And thankfully, someone else went and told. I think they might have talked to them first, and then they went and told an employee, and the employee came in and talked to them. And the dad, I'm guessing it was the mom who really wanted to see this movie because it was the dad who took the kid out and then spent like the final act of the movie out in the hallway with the kid. But it was just the worst theater experience I've ever had.
I can one up that.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm ready.
When I went to see, I believe it was the 10 Rings movie, the Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
The movie theater's empty, but it's an assigned seating type place. And this is actually when I started buying the seat next to me every time. I don't go.
Hold on, wait. You can't just say that. Like, I know what you're talking about, but you can't just say that.
Okay.
And then
Okay. So
I forgot that you do this.
So I've had so many negative experiences sitting next to people in the movie theater that when I go to the movie theater by me, it's assigned seating. I always pay extra to sit in the like more legroom row just because there's more space between you and other people. And I always buy the seat next to me. So whenever I go to the movies, I buy 2 tickets. I buy the aisle seat and then I buy the seat next to me because I've had so many negative interactions with people in movie theaters that it drives me crazy. I just need a buffer. But this one time I didn't because it was like 2020 and like, you know, on and off of work and everything. So like I wasn't flowing in money, but I wanted to go see the guy. Is his name? I'm gonna get it wrong and I'll feel like an asshole. Is it Simu Liu?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Okay, cool. He's also in Barbie, which I love.
Yeah, he's fantastic in Barbie.
Yeah, he was fantastic in Barbie. I just saw that for the first time the other day. Anyway, so
really?
I went to the yeah. But that's not what we're talking about. Save it for another time. For the post show, we'll talk about Barbie.
Post show. Okay.
But
to the post show notes.
This guy came and there was something clearly off, like spectrum or he had Down syndrome or some other like disability. And so it's one of those things, right? It's like, okay, it's a faux pas to complain. But the first thing he did was took his fucking shoes off. And I don't know what barn you were raised in, but you gotta keep your shoes on when you go out. You can't take your shoes off. You know? Like, I'm sorry. Put your shoes on. Keep your shoes on. I can't smell, so it didn't bother me in that regard. But like,
I always
keep your
forget
shoes
about
on.
that too. That you can't smell.
Yeah, I know. Listen, we can't get all into the weeds of the background. We'll never
I
get to
know.
the movie.
We'll keep moving.
All right, we'll save it for the post show. Yeah, I can't smell, so I'm like, it doesn't bother me. Then he like sucked down this gigantic soda, and for the rest of the movie, did that fucking slurping thing that you do when you're like trying to get the ice to melt, like the whole fucking time, and like would like jostle the cup and was like turning it upside down and like patting the bottom of it. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, it's even free refills. You just have to put your shoes on. And
No,
then
man, that's too much of an ask.
every time that any character did anything, again, he was differently abled. And I'm not mad at him, but this is why I buy the seat next to me now all the time. I used to do it before. I definitely do it now. Like if I cannot afford to buy 2 tickets to the movie, I cannot go to the movie. And I don't do it opening night, so chill the fuck out, okay? I do it after the movie's been out for like 2 weeks because I don't want to prevent somebody from seeing it. But this guy, like, was eating popcorn by throwing the popcorn in the air and trying to catch it in his mouth, and he
What?
never got any of it.
During the movie?
The whole movie.
Whoa.
The whole movie, dude. The whole movie.
Wow.
And anytime anything happened, he'd be like, that hurt. That had to hurt. Get him.
Whoa.
Get him. And I was like, oh my God. I'm in
Man,
hell.
you should have asked him for his phone number because I want to go see movies with this guy.
No, you want to go. Yeah, you want to go
This-
see movies with my uncle.
That's the difference between us. I like to embrace the chaos that is that type of stuff.
I couldn't. I was so mad. I was like leaning my head off to the side. I had my hand covering my ear. To be honest, I don't even remember anything about 10 Rings. I remember Ben Kingsley's in it and the weird butt furry guy.
Yeah.
The butthead.
Yeah, the butt thing with wings.
Yeah, but you know what? Everyone knows what I was talking about when I said it, you know? They knew.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, any Hoosers. So yes, I always buy the seat next to me because I've had negative experiences at the movie. But I'm not going to have a negative experience today. I feel like I'm going to like the movie.
Yeah, so I guess yeah, what do you expect? Do you think you're going to like it is what you're saying?
It's so many people's favorite movie that I expect 2 outcomes. One, I'm gonna like it and I'm gonna recognize it as a classic and be like, wow, how haven't I seen this movie before? The alternative is that I'll see why people love it, but it'll have missed me, and I think that I'll come back with there's a hint of nostalgia in all of your viewings of the film. As my alarm goes off telling me to record. We did start a little early.
We started actually really early. But there's just a couple things I want to touch on before we go into watching the movie because I think we're approaching that ramp point. The first topic I don't want to go into it now, but I just want to mention it as something I want to talk about at the very least in the post show. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it during commentary at times. And I think I kind of alluded to this earlier with math, but I'm not sure how familiar you are with the source material for this movie and how this movie came to be, but it's based on a book by Michael Crichton. And
yeah, I think so.
Are you familiar with Michael Crichton's writing style?
No.
So if you open a Michael Crichton book, there's lots of like graphs and tables and stuff like that. Like he does a lot of world building, a lot of science, kind of air quotes on the science, but a big thing in the book and the movie is chaos theory. And as someone who like I minored in math in college and was very in the weeds with engineering, chaos theory is something that I have not like experience with in terms of studying, but like we at least touched on it in some classes. So like I'm aware of it and its concepts. So that's something that I kind of want to talk about in terms of how what the movie's perspective on chaos theory is, an idea of what chaos theory is versus what it actually is. but we'll
Okay.
get to that later. But the second thing I want to ask is, we talked about your expectations for how you'll like it, which I just got to say, everything about this movie is just so iconic to me. But I want to know what your expectations are for how the movie will have aged. You know, it's one thing to, like you said, recognize the movie for a classic, but like, do you think that if this movie came out today, whether or not it would be good? Like, or also, how do you think the special effects would have aged? Like, going into it, not having seen it, do you think, just right now, stab in the dark, do you think the special effects are going to look good or bad, considering it's a movie that came out 30 years ago, 1993?
Okay, it has the potential to look really good because I feel like they would have used if they did use CG, right? 90 CG is not great. It doesn't really get good until like the last 10 years, I guess, but even then it looks like shit. I think that if they did use CG, they used it in complement with physical props and like practical effects. And I think that if that's the case, and I think that a portion of the movie takes place at night, just what I've learned from cultural osmosis, that doing things at night or like in the rain or like in the fog, you can hide some of the quality of your effects. I think it's going to look fine. Like, I think it's going to look really good. I think it's going to look like a movie that probably came out much later than, what'd you say, 93? I think it's going to look like a movie that came out much later than 1993.
Okay.
I also know that people rave about the effects. So I'm not going to pretend like I don't know, that people have said that the effects hold up. I think that what I know about film, and by the way, I went to college. I went to college. I have a degree in journalism.
Look at this guy.
But I minored in film. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then one last question I want to ask. Are you a dinosaur fan?
Like the 1998 Disney masterpiece with Aladar and the monkeys for some reason?
Why? Did that come up last week too?
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny. I think last week I said I have a story about that movie, and I think you said you did too.
Yeah, you went.
We told the stories,
because
right?
you wanted to go see Chicken Run.
Yeah, and then my mom took me to 31 Flavors.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah,
yeah.
We did talk about this last week on the podcast.
Dinosaurs as a whole, are you a fan? Okay.
I used to be, like, as a kid.
Yeah.
I was so into it. I used to have the Godzilla like hand puppets.
Oh yeah, I had those too.
They came out from
the 98 or 99 Godzilla with those. Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, with Matthew Broderick, aka Simba, aka
he's done nothing else. Those are his two movies.
Wasn't he in The Producers?
Yeah, he was.
He was Leo Bloom in The Producers.
I can't believe you go to The Producers and not Ferris Bueller.
I don't remember. I never saw Ferris Bueller.
What? What? CJ! Oh my God.
I don't know anything about it. I don't know
John Hughes, I have a lot of conflicting feelings about. But Ferris Bueller, Ferris Bueller is a movie that I've seen. It's one of my most seen movies. Like, that's a movie that I used to be able to just, that's one of those movies where you could turn on any scene and I would be able to just quote it word for word for a bit.
Okay.
I can't believe you haven't seen Ferris Bueller. My Lord.
I've never seen it, no.
Wow.
I used to listen to a podcast, and the only thing I know about John Hughes was the guy was like being really waxed, like poetic and like really sentimental. And one of the other guys on the podcast said, I can't believe you brought a John Hughes script to a knife fight. So, there you go.
Yeah. John Hughes is a topic for an entirely different time, but so I guess you liked dinosaurs as a kid. Me too. I love dinosaurs, probably very much fueled by this movie. But I want to ask, what dinosaurs are you hoping to see in this movie, and what dinosaurs are you expecting to see in this movie?
Okay, so what's the little ones that run around like little assholes?
Oh, the little green ones.
They're like T-Rexes, but they're little bitches. They run around in packs.
Velociraptors.
Yeah, the ones that Chris Pratt tried to train and then
Yes,
spent the next 3
Velociraptors.
movies not able to train.
Wait, you've seen Jurassic World?
No, I haven't. That's just what I picked up from the trailer.
Okay.
Because in the first one, he's like, Blue! And I had a
Yes.
dog named Blue. And in the second trailer, they're like, Blue's gone. She's never coming back. And the third one, there's the dramatic, like string tightening. Blue? Right? So that's all I know. So the little guys, what's obviously the T-Rex. They have to have the T-Rex. That dinosaur that we all thought was a dinosaur, but was 2 dinosaurs laying on top of each other. The Brontosaurus.
The really, really tall guys?
Yeah, the little
the
foot.
long necks? Oh yeah, like a long, like a, what is that?
I've seen it.
Brachiosaur?
Yeah, I've seen every Land Before Time movie. By the way, don't at me.
Yeah, Brachiosaurus.
Yeah, I'll say I'll go with the Stegosaurus too. You know, I'll throw out my love for Sarah.
Okay.
The Triceratops, right?
Triceratops. Yeah.
Yeah, a Stegosaurus is something else, right?
Yes, the Stegosaurus is the one with all the plates on its back.
What's that bald motherfucker's name?
Ankylosaur.
Oh, you knew.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ankylosaurus. I know I know because for the longest time, even maybe to this day, they were always my favorite.
Them bald motherfucker?
Yeah. Wait, bald or ball?
The ones that have the one that looks like Craniados from Pokemon.
Oh no, that's a Dilophosaurus Dilophosaurus. No, Dilophosaurus is something else. Why bald dinosaur? I'm googling it. Pachycephalosaurus. That's what it's called.
Yes, of course. Pachycephalosaurus.
Yeah.
These all sound like STDs.
I know it. They do. I know that one. I know how to pronounce that one because one of my exes nannied this kid who was obsessed with Pachycephalosauruses. So very difficult one to spell. But anyway, okay, Ankylosaurus is the one that has like the mace tail. I thought you said ball dinosaur, and I thought you were talking about the one with like the giant ball on the end of its tail.
No, I was talking about the bald one.
Yeah, Pachycephalosaurus.
Okay. That's my predictions for the.
Right.
Oh, maybe they'll do. Well, okay, they have to have something flying, right? Because they're not going to have these giant dinosaurs with nothing flying in the sky. So I'll go ahead and throw in a couple flying dinosaurs too. How about that?
All right, solid predictions. I did not make note of any of them.
Fuck. All right,
but solid predictions.
All right, is this the end of the ramp?
I think this is the end of the ramp. I've got nothing else to add. I'm so excited and so ready to start this movie.
Okay, so thank you everybody for listening to the first part of the podcast. If you are listening to this, you can just hang on. If you've already seen Jurassic Park, you can just chill. You'll hear a few clips from the movie and our reactions to it. And then if you don't want to do anything, you can just come back. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to come back. You don't have to go anywhere. In about 20, 30 seconds from now, we will be doing the post show after we've already seen it. But if you want to watch the companion track, the commentary track that accompanies the movie, you can pause the podcast when I say now, not now, but the next time I say it. And that'll be your cue to stop so that you don't get any spoilers, and then switch over to the companion track, which we're releasing alongside this podcast.
And also worth mentioning real quick, you can find the link to the commentary companion track in the show notes for this episode.
So if you want to watch the movie with us, you can stop the podcast right now. Why did it slide back? Why is it on the track? No, he's dead! I knew it! Why did I know that? Save him! He can use a wheelchair. No! Look how he's gonna catch him. He's 15 feet behind him.
Right? Incredible shot.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second portion of The Film is Okie Dokie. if you are joining us after listening to the companion track, you may know how we feel about the film. But if you're listening from the pre part of the podcast, see, we're calling it pre and post, but I guess it's just one podcast for y'all. So I should work on my vernacular for it. There is no pre and post. There is just podcast. Yeah, so we're going to get into a little bit about Jurassic Park. We're going to talk about what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, some thoughts on the movie itself, and some other things. But I wanted to start really quick, right off the rip. I have watched a lot of movies in the last let's call it the last 3 days. I've watched a ton of movies. Enough that you would do the math to see if I could possibly watch them all in one day, or in that time frame.
All right, I want to hear them.
Okay, so I watched Killers of the Flower Moon.
How'd you like it?
We'll get back to that. I watched Certain Women.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
It's a good movie. I watched Asteroid City.
Okay.
I watched TMNT Mutant Mayhem.
Okay.
I watched Oppenheimer.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I am actually about to start doing math.
Yeah. I watched Barbie a few days ago. I watched Jurassic Park, obviously. Yeah, so that's a lot. I've watched a lot of movies in the last couple days. And so my favorite movie of the bunch, I don't want to give in-depth. I'm doing something with it. I'm going to do something with all these movies that I watched, but I don't want to give like in-depth thoughts about all of them. My favorite movie that I saw was Barbie by a lot. I do want to rant about. Can I rant about Killers of the Flower Moon really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Rant away.
Because you saw it. You saw the Killers of the Flower. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna get into some spoilery stuff. But it'll be okay.
Maybe we could timestamp this in the description.
Yeah, we got this. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Spoilers start now.
I do want to say that I saw the movie right when it came out, so it's been a couple months for me. So
okay.
It might not be.
But you remember
super,
the
super
broad
fresh in my mind.
strokes. You remember the broad strokes. Okay. So, on paper, this movie is everything that I love. This movie is Martin Scorsese. This movie is Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. It has a great ensemble cast. Brendan Fraser is in it for like 5 lines.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Jesse Plemons is good in it, and I thought
love me Jesse Plemons.
I thought there was nothing that man could do to ever make me not hate him. He did okay for himself in this movie. Lily Gladstone, dude. Lily Gladstone was phenomenal.
Yeah,
she
incredible.
Was so good. I heard that Marty cast her after watching Certain Women. It made me go watch Certain Women. Okay, she's great, and this is something that he said in some kind of recent one of those junkets interviews that we now turn into YouTube series. He said that her face does so much without doing much at all, which is perfect for film acting, which is so true, because without moving her lips, her face says so much, right? She is always saying and doing so much without saying anything. Meanwhile, in contrast, Leonardo DiCaprio is saying and doing so much without saying anything, right? It's like the contrast of the two. They call it Blackbird speech in the beginning, or Blackbird talk. This is everything that I want in a film. This is like everything on paper. It's a Western. I love Westerns. This is supposed to be
right.
Everything.
We did talk about that.
Yeah. This is a non-fiction book. Like, this is supposed to be my shtick, right? It's 3.5 hours long. I don't even mind long movies. I love Hateful Eight, which is a 3-hour Western. Like, I'm supposed to love this movie. Everything about this is right up my alley, okay?
Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
This line is so... I'm writing a fucking video essay about this movie because I have so many conflicted feelings. But basically, this is the movie that he gets to make because he made all the other movies, right? This is the film that Scorsese gets to make because he made all the other movies, because he gets to do whatever he wants when he makes a movie at this point. Basically, it's so hands off, and maybe that's not the case, and maybe I'm overstating it, his control, but I don't think it's that much of an overstatement, because he literally is just like, hey, you're going to be in my movie, and they say, okay, when do I need to be there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the no time limit on the movie is like such an indication of that. I felt like this movie, first of all, didn't do a good job of explaining the passage of time. I felt like we were just jumping all over the place, and I'm like, what do you mean we haven't left the 20s? Like, okay, like, it's only been like 5 years. Goodfellas and Casino and The Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed explain why you would want to be a piece of shit. They explain why would you want to be a gangster? Why would you want to kill people and fucking beat your wife and cheat on her and be a drug addict and go to prison? Why would you want to do that? Right? The answer is because it's fucking cool. Because you get to go in the back door of the Copa, and you get to drive a Cadillac, and everyone knows your name, and everyone's your friend, and you have a ton of money, and you don't have a W-2. That's why it's cool. That's why you're willing to die. That's why you're willing to die or go to prison and then die, right? That's why you're willing to do all those things that you do, because it's cool, right? It explains why you would do it. Why would you drop out of school to go work at a cab stand? Oh, because I get to drive Cadillacs, motherfucker. That's why. Mm. This movie does not explain why you would want to murder Osage Indians. It does not explain that at all. It is like watching someone drive their car to the intersection of morality, put the turn indicator light on for the right direction, and then veer off in the other way every fucking time. Like, only one that feels any kind of conflicted for what they're doing is Ernest, which is the Leonardo DiCaprio character. He's the only one that has any kind of like hesitation or like reservation or anything, right? And every time he just picks the wrong thing. And after 3 hours of it, I'm like, how are you still this asshole? Right? And then, so the first 2.5 hours are basically you're watching someone get away with murder, literally, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, okay, you didn't need to have 40 minutes of this getting worse and worse, because after worse and worse and worse and worse, I got the idea. You didn't need the extra 2 levels of worse. He poisons his wife. He poisons his wife. And then there's the one scene where he's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I am. I'm only going to give her half, though. And she's dying. She's in a cold sweat. She's, like, not able to move. And I'm like, so you only gave her half? Like, a person of no redeeming value, of no interest. He doesn't do anything interesting. Like, what, he clubs the one guy in the head with his brother? Like, most of the time, it's him as the mouthpiece for his uncle, who's the fucking Kentucky Fried Angel of Death. Right? Like, it's like, why? And Lily Gladstone, and by the way, all good performances. I'm totally fine hating a character that I'm like meant to watch, but the reason that those other movies work is because you like Ray Liotta. Why would Matt Damon is cool. You like Leo. You like De Niro because they're charismatic and they're charming and they're funny and they have money and they're cool and they do cool stuff. He's not cool. He doesn't do anything cool. He's kind of this milquetoast, fucking feckless wimp. He's like a snake under a rock and nobody moves his rock.
He's a big old dummy.
He's a dummy. He is just like a pound of clay that nobody bothered to mold. And his uncle is just like, now you stay clay now. You stay clay now, boy. Right? And like, oh, why does Robert De Niro need more money? Right? Why? Okay. At one point, so basically the crux of the story is they're killing Osage because they have stake in the Osage Nation's oil rights. They have a stake. Every member of the full-blooded member of the tribe has a stake in their company, which means that you get money, right? So all the white people are killing all the Osage after marrying them and having children because they want to get their money. And I'm like, this is true. I want to set this. This is a non-fiction story. I mean, it's adapted for the screen, but the book is a real story. The series of murders of Osage in the 1920s is a real story that really happened. But it's at the same time, it's like, why would you do this? You already have money. And it's like, oh, well, there's that scene where he has to sell his cattle real cheap, or he burns his crops for the insurance money. But you built a dance school. Like, he's like, I gave you roads, boy. I'm like, don't give him roads. You didn't need to kill him. Is being the folksy old white man the friend of the Osage? That cost money. Just keep the money and then you don't have to kill anybody. It's like, oh, is it just raw racism? Like, them Redskins don't know how to spend their money. It's like, is that what it is? It's just raw hatred and racism? It can't be, because if you were that angry at them, you wouldn't be like, oh, that was my best friend. Okay, it's one thing to say he was your best friend. That guy was actually your best friend, dude. He was with you all the time. He was with you everywhere you went.
See, my read on it was, it was very racially charged. Like,
it is very racially charged.
Maybe he was like, oh, he was my best friend, but given all the context, it felt more like he viewed him as a pet in a way, you know? Like,
no, he did.
Very early on, the uncle, Robert De Niro's character, saying, like, these are a sick people, you know? They, it's almost like he had convinced himself, due to his, like, where his views were, that, like, he was doing them a favor, killing them and taking their money because they didn't know how to have money.
And I completely understand that. I want to make it clear that's not lost on me, that's what it's going for. I want you to think about the leap in logic, right? Think of the most racist person you've ever met. You know, obviously we don't have to. We all know somebody who's just a racist piece of shit, right? Or a misogynist piece of shit. Imagine someone who hates, imagine someone that hates another race so much that for, like, their entire lives, they pretend to be their friend. It passes understanding, and for me, it's not. Now, again, he was a real dude. This was a real thing that happened. This is a real dude. However, they already basically admitted that, because Ernest is basically not in the book at all. So they basically had to work their way inside out for Ernest, and made the movie about Ernest and Molly and their story. But the book isn't really about that. The book is more like a procedural in that way. If you were to, like, adapt it for film, it would end up as a police procedural, as like a straight adaptation. And I just didn't like it. I really didn't. It's so crazy to me, because I can say, and the cinematography was beautiful. All these wonderful long shots, wide shots of the landscape, these magnificent vistas, this beautiful sweeping camera work. all these super crazy shots that we just wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't Marty and it wasn't this year and money was no object and so on and so forth, and just it's a marvel to watch, right? It's just beautiful. This movie is a loser. This movie made 156 million at the box office and it cost 200 million to make. Okay? This movie is a loser in that regard, but we still got it and it's beautiful. However, I didn't like it. The last hour of the movie is Ernest being like, I'll testify. And then it's like, what you doing, Fokker? I'm watching you, Fokker. Oh, I'm not going to testify. And then he has this one moment, which I gotta say is a phenomenal scene, where he finds out that his youngest child died. And really just terrific acting on his part. But then he's like, I'm going to testify. It's the last hour of the movie. It's the fake, double fake, refake. Why? That's not an hour. Just do it. Also, he's not in the book. He's not in the story. You made that. As far as I understand, he did just like, nah, we have to show he's conflicted. Why? Why do you have to show he's still conflicted? Why is that something we have to do? Like, we get it. Get on with it. That last half hour, where it's almost like she's still gonna go back to him. And I'm like, are you fucking crazy? Are you fucking crazy? You're gonna go back to him? Then he lied. He murdered all your family. He murdered everybody. Or was the fucking mouthpiece for the Merchant of Death, right? He murdered everyone. You're gonna go back to him, but he lied. Oh, now I'm gonna get remarried. Fuck you. Fuck you. And then the ending framing device of it being a radio play, I was like, I am so not into this. This Chicago bullshit.
Like, I love that. The old-timey podcast, old-timey true crime podcast. Come on, how could you not be
It
into
was
that?
cool, but I'm like, I don't fucking want this right now. Get away from me.
Then Marty walks on screen. Bravo. He's done it again.
So you really liked it?
I thought it was a great movie.
I for everything that I said, I agree in principle, but in practice, I didn't like.
This was not the take I was expecting for this movie.
But I did go into detail about all the things that I loved.
You did.
I just will never
you thoroughly explained yourself.
Yeah, I will never.
But thank you for listening. This has been our episode on Killers of the Flower Moon.
Now we can't do Killers of the Flower Moon because I'll never watch it again.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
That's so wild.
All right, here we go. What movie did we watch? Jurassic Park?
I don't even remember at this point.
Did you like, obviously you said you've seen it a lot, but did you like it?
I love Jurassic Park. I loved watching it this time. This movie never gets old for me. Every time I watch it, I notice new things planted as setup, new smaller details. I loved it. How about you? I'm so interested in hearing just your initial general thoughts, and then we can go and recap the movie briefly. Just initial, what are CJ's initial general thoughts on this movie that you should have seen so long ago?
I know. I did like it. I'm not as big into dinosaurs as we discussed in the pre-show. I'm not as big into dinosaurs as I used to be as a little child. If I had seen this as a kid, I probably would have liked dinosaurs longer. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. I mean, it was totally fine. I would say more than fine, really good.
Pretty really good. Quote, it was fine, more than fine, really good. Put that on the poster.
That's we're gonna release lo-fi posters of these movies, and it's gonna be one of our quotes from the podcast. It's like a abstract Jurassic Park photo. Fine, more than fine, really good.
Well, how about this? Do you want to recap the movie or should I recap it since I was the one who brought this movie to the table?
It's up to you. Mine will be more truncated and comedic. So I don't know if we want like a real recap.
Okay. I'll go through and give a real recap. If there's any point at which you want to throw in some CJ-isms, go ahead.
Okay.
The movie opens with a bunch of dudes. They're importing some dinos into Jurassic Park. Velociraptor handler gets eaten because something goes wrong because of the most precarious situation with how they unload these velociraptors. It makes no sense.
I predicted that one.
Yeah. Oh, CJ was predicting throughout the movie who was gonna die, and you called a lot of them. You did call a lot of them, but it's also a small cast. So at one point, if you say this guy's gonna die, you got like a 50% chance of being right.
All right.
But anyway, just opening scene kind of introduces the idea of whatnot: velociraptors, dinosaurs, the idea that death is a possibility with these guys. And then we cut to like Montana. We have Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, and a paleobotanist, Ellie Sattler, played by the one and only Laura Dern.
Yes.
They're at a dig site, and then what's his name? John Hammond, I believe is his name. Yeah, John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, shows up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna come, and you guys are the experts on all things dinos. Come to this thing I'm doing. I want your sign off because I want all of the experts on what I'm doing to sign off on this so that, it has a stamp of approval, a stamp of authenticity." And they're like, I'm not sure. And he's like, I'm going to pay for what you're doing for 3 years. I'll pay for your dig for 3 years. And they're like, okay, let's have some champagne. So they fly to Jurassic Park. I think also before we even fly to Jurassic Park, we're introduced to Nedry, who's played by Wayne Knight, who is a contractor hired to pretty much automate all the systems, design all the systems at Jurassic Park. And I don't think it's really explicitly stated in the movie, but it's implied. And I think in some ancillary material, it's revealed that he was the lowest bidder. And once he started doing the job, he also, my dogs are playing in the back. Hey, knock it off. Can you go play in the other room? It's implied that he was the lowest bidder, and then when he started working on the job, he realized, oh my God, I'm really underpaid for this. So he's disgruntled. He has a deal with a third party to steal a bunch of dinosaur embryos for like $15 million.
I hear the dogs.
I know. I'm going to deal with this real quick before returning. And after we leave Nedry, then like we set up, he's given a Barbasol canister, which I'll get back to later because I want to talk about that briefly after the recap. But we go back then to Jurassic Park. They're flying in. Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler. They arrive. We meet Dr. Ian Malcolm, the chaotician, and also what's his name? Gennaro. He was the lawyer. It's kind of like this crew of Hammond, like the park owner, the lawyer, the chaotician, and the two paleontologists. And they're all there. They're given a tour of Jurassic Park. While they're driving in Jeeps, they get to see. They see dinosaurs for this first time in this magical scene. They're just absolutely stunned. He actually did it. You son of a bitch, you did it. I believe that's the line. And then we're giving a bit of a tour on how Jurassic Park works, and pretty much they extracted blood from mosquitoes preserved in amber and used frog DNA to fill in the gaps in the DNA of dinosaurs and cloned them with and as part of the cloning process, they genetically engineered the dinosaurs so that they're all female, so that there's only pre-approved breeding in the lab, and they have lunch. They kind of debate the ethics of cloning and whatnot, and pretty much all three experts that they brought in to talk about, like, give the stamp of approval, all of them are like, I'm not sure this is a good idea. And only John Hammond, the park owner, and the lawyer representing the investors are like, man, we're gonna make a lot of money. You guys don't get it. And Also, I should note that the purpose of this visit is like for them to give their seal of approval, and also for this lawyer to like give the approval to the investors of like, hey, we're gonna make money. This is, it's our money's being well spent. But they, I believe it's around this time that the park owner Hammond's grandchildren show up, Lex and Tim, and they go on a park tour. The park tour, it doesn't really go too great. They don't really see a lot of dinosaurs. They're in Ford Explorers, painted iconically with that green and yellow paint job. It's on a track. They're going around, and they don't really see anything. A tropical storm is coming in. They do go and they encounter a sick triceratops, and I just like incredible scene where Alan Grant is like laying on its chest while it's breathing and like it's raising him and down. But this storm is coming in, so they've all got to go back to the I don't know, the main building. Ellie Sattler stays with the Triceratops, and pretty much they're all heading back, and the storm is hitting, and this is when Nedry enacts the plan to steal the embryos, because he only has like an 18-minute window to do this, because he's going to shut down all of the gates, all of the electric fences, shut down all of the security, like all the security stuff, save for the Velociraptor pen, because they keep setting up, you don't fuck with the Velociraptors. They're smart. They hunt in packs. They can jump. They've like seen them looking at a way to get out of the pen. And he has 18 minutes to steal the embryos, escape the island, get on the last boat out of here before this tropical storm. So everyone's on their way back to the building, and everything shuts down because he shuts down all of the systems to steal the embryos. And he like puts it all in the shaving cream can, and he like starts heading out in a car of his own, trying to escape the island. Just to wrap up Nedry's adventures, he ends up encountering a Dilophosaurus, who's the one who spits, and ends up killing him. The Barbasol can is lost in some mud, never to be seen again in this movie. And the rest of the crew save for Ellie Sattler and the park owner. They are in these Ford Explorers right next to the T-Rex paddock, and the T-Rex breaks out, and we get this big old scene where they're being chased by the T-Rex. The T-Rex's vision is based on movement. The lawyer runs to the bathroom, gets eaten while he's taking a poop, and Dr. Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum's injured during this, and the kids and Dr. Alan Grant fall off like the side of a dam, pretty much the side of like a man-made cliff. They're okay. And then it's just like kind of them trying to survive and get back to the building, but because of the terrain and everything, they have to go a long way. They camp in a tree overnight. At the same time, Dr. Jeff Goldblum is saved by Laura Dern and the game warden, who's someone I failed to mention. But pretty much the Dr. Alan Grant and the kids are trying to make their way back then the next day, back to the main building, while everyone else back at the main place, the game warden, Samuel L. Jackson, who's in this movie, he plays like an IT guy pretty much. The counterpart to Wayne Knight's character, and Laura Dern and Richard Attenborough, they're all like, okay, well, we've got to get all of the security systems back online. All of the power and everything is still down because of Nedry. We have to go and reset stuff so we can phone the mainland and whatnot. So they send Samuel L. Jackson to do that. He's like, I'll be back in 3 minutes. And he doesn't come back. So Laura Dern and the game warden go to do that. They encounter the Velociraptors while they're turning the power back on. While they're turning the power back on, Sam Neill and the kids have an encounter with a T-Rex chasing a herd of other dinosaurs. And they need to climb a giant electric fence. And while they're climbing it, I think this might have been CJ's favorite part of the movie. While they're on the other side, Tim, the little boy, he's having trouble getting down. Like he kind of slipped, and has second, apprehensions towards hopping down. But at the same time, Laura Dern is turning on all of the power, and the warning lights going off on the electric fence. So they're like, jump, 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 we'll catch you. And he gets shocked off by 10,000 volts, but Sam Neill successfully performs CPR on him. And it's while they're doing this whole excursion trying to make it back, Sam Neill and the kids, they find some dinosaur eggs that have hatched, which means that because Sam Neill then deduces, they use the frog DNA to fill in the gaps. Some West African frogs, they can change their sexes. They can change their sex in a single sex environment. So that must have been what happened. These dinosaurs can breed because nature finds a way. Sorry, that was Obama. Obama's in this movie. And they pretty much it's this whole thing where they're like, okay, well, it always was going to fail because nature would have found a way. That's kind of what Ian Malcolm was saying, Jeff Goldblum was saying the whole time with chaos theory and everything, which we'll get into after this. But they pretty much reunite, and they get the systems back online. They're in the main building trying to deal with the velociraptors. They're able to secure themselves in the room. It's like everyone the main group reunites. Sam Neill and Laura Dern reunite, and they have the kids with them. Richard Attenborough is with the injured Jeff Goldblum somewhere else. Also, at one point, while they're trying to turn on the power and everything, Laura Dern and the game warden gets killed by the velociraptors. But this then leads to, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, and I can't entirely remember how Sam Neill and Laura Dern separate from the kids, but it leads to the kids running away from velociraptors, or like they go to, I think, get Jeff Goldblum or something, and the kids stay back to have some food, and the velociraptors show up, and we have the famous kitchen scene, which in my opinion is like the most iconic scene from Jurassic Park. It's the kitchen scene and the T-Rex scene during the pouring rain. But the kids are able to evade the velociraptors. They reunite with Sam Neill and Laura Dern running away from the order of this part's probably out of what I'm saying, but they reunite. They're in the main lobby, and the T-Rex shows up to save them from the velociraptors, and they're able to then reunite with Richard Attenborough and whatnot and hop on a helicopter and fly away. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
How'd I do, CJ?
You did a pretty good job.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. So,
well, yeah.
CJ, I'm dying to hear what do you have any more in-depth thoughts on this movie? Do you have anything you want to call out, talk about? What did you think about seeing this movie now 30 years after it came out?
All right. So things I was concerned about going in was that I would have premise fatigue. Like, the premise is, what if we brought back the dinosaurs? Which I knew going in. And then it becomes dinosaur alien. And I was worried that I would be exhausted or tired by the premise, because it shouldn't take that long to leave. And I don't like when movies artificially stretch out why they can't leave. Like if you're like, why don't you just leave? Oh, well, we can't because we're on an island. Yeah. You never thought that you'd be in a situation where you might need to call somebody, you know? You know what I mean? This never came up before. So I don't like when, and it's very easy to get premise fatigue. I will say that this movie did not do that. From the time that they get out of the Jeep, and I'm like, why are you getting out of the fucking Jeep? Why don't you ride the Jeeps don't drive. Okay, whatever. That's a horrible oversight.
Which we should mention, I kind of failed to touch on this in the recap. The whole movie, Richard Attenborough's character saying, I spared no expense. But they are just cutting corners left and right. And part of it's because of Nedry, but part of it's just because of Richard Attenborough's hubris and everything going along with that. There are so many oversights in corners cut that are directly called out by the characters in the movie, and a lot are kind of implied.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many, even when you like, if you rewatch the movie just looking for them, they're left and right. Like even something as small as when they are being given the tour and they're on the little rotating platform thing, they're able to just lift the lap bar off of themselves and get moving. It's just like there's zero safety there.
Yeah. No, it's bad. That's bad. So yeah, from the time that they get out of the Jeep to the time that they get back to the main building, it's like an hour. But it kept moving, right? We're here, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Like I wanted them to keep it moving. They took Ian Malcolm out of the picture pretty early, I thought, which is good because life finds a way. Would only be interesting for like a little bit, and like then he like got hurt and was saved, which is fine. But like separating everybody and like everyone just dying systematically again, I thought, okay, if they drag this out, it won't be fun. Everybody had pretty much had quick deaths. I think the Gennaro guy, from the time that he went into the shitter to being eaten on the shitter, was the longest time. Like just in terms of like what else was happening in the scene. I think it was fine. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good movie. One of the things that I had heard, I guess I'll talk about this. I had picked up a lot of points from this movie by osmosis, cultural osmosis, but I just didn't know they were from this movie. So that is something that I take into consideration. Like it kind of felt familiar, but I had never seen it before and I didn't know anything about it going in. I think that at the end of the day, if you were like, CJ, do you want to watch Jurassic Park again? I'd say, yeah, I'd watch Jurassic Park again. They did a good job of killing everybody quickly. They didn't drag it out. I think I just said that. There was some other point I was going to make. Oh, the other thing that I had always heard, and maybe this goes into the next thing we want to talk about, I'd always heard that the special effects really held up. So it's one of those things, right? If you say something over and over and over and over and over again, the expectations of that are going to be so high. And so many different people in my life have told me it was their favorite movie and the special effects have held up so many years afterwards. And I think that the stuff at night looked really good and the stuff in the rain looked really good. But anytime that they showed the whole dinosaur, like the wide, it didn't look that good. It looked pretty good. I mean, it wasn't like comically bad because a lot of stuff at that time looked terrible. All the CG at that time looked terrible. So it looks better than most and it holds up. Like it does look what it's supposed to be and it's pretty good for what it is. The wides of that are not great. I think Spielberg, when he was starting, obviously he did Jaws. And when he did Jaws, the reason that Jaws is the way that Jaws is because they had the fish puppet that didn't really work. Right?
I like how you called it a fish.
Yeah, well, right. Sharks are fish, aren't they? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, I just like it's the fish puppet.
Yeah, the fish puppet. So they had this animatronic that didn't work. So he couldn't show the shark as much as he wanted to show it. And he said it made him more like Alfred Hitchcock and less like Roger Corman, because if he could have shown the shark the whole time, he would have shown the shark the whole time. And if you use that sort of logic and thought, all of the best scenes in the movie, as far as effects go, are when you can barely see the dinosaurs. Because if you can ever see the whole dinosaur, it doesn't look that great. And that's basically true for everything. Like, even like today, if you can see the whole thing, it just doesn't look right because most of the time it doesn't look like it's supposed to be there. Most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
see, I think that I think that though kind of is a testament to how good it is, because even to this day, things don't look, especially when you show the full thing, they don't look entirely believable. But the fact that even when it's in the wide, that it looks as good as it does for 1993, like I'm of the opinion that you would require minor touch-ups to the wide CGI and the wide effects that they use to make it passable as a movie released today, 30 years later, 31 years later, now that it's 2024.
Oh yeah.
But considering we're recording this on New Year's Day, but I like,
there's
to
something
me,
to
that's
that. There's something to that. It's
what, that it's New Year's Day.
no, it's not. There's something to it being good for how old it is, but when you watch something, you have to take it as you find it. You know, I didn't watch this movie 31 years ago. I watched it 31 years later. So
sounds like user error to me.
I can only take this movie as I found it, which is it looks pretty good for what it was. It's the same thing when I tell people about Citizen Kane, and people are like, it's just okay. I'm like, yeah, but the other movies that were out at the time looked like shit. Like, you don't understand. If you don't go and watch like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, that came out at the same time, or like any of those movies that came out the same year as Citizen Kane, you don't understand. Because Citizen Kane looks like it could have come out like a couple years ago, because it's still that good, you know? But you have to take things as you find them. So I've learned to accept, like, yeah, people aren't gonna like have the same reaction that I do, because they haven't seen as much as I have, or they can only take something as they find it. Sort of my overall mantra about it. So like, the effects are good. They do look good for 1993. It could be touched up a little bit and probably re-released. At the same time, doesn't need to be. It still looks good. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's fine. It's
pretty,
more than fine.
It's pretty really good.
It's pretty really good.
So something else that I wanted to talk about is kind of Ian Malcolm's, Jeff Goldblum's character's whole shtick and his whole point, the whole chaos theory. And I talked about this a little bit beforehand, and I didn't really talk about it much during the movie. But the movie that Jurassic Park, when I think about chaos theory and the way it presents it in this movie and the way it's actually applied thematically, they do a good job of explaining chaos theory. So just for anyone listening who might not be too familiar, chaos theory is pretty much, it's a study of a situation where it's really, really sensitive to your starting conditions, really sensitive to your starting variables. And a classic example of this is a double pendulum. Like a typical pendulum just swings back and forth. It's fixed at one point. A double pendulum is just a pendulum, but it has its own pendulum attached to the end of the first pendulum. And it's a very famous example of chaos theory, because you can try and, if you as a human try to, like, you let it go at one point, it'll do one thing, and you're like, okay, do that again. Let it go in the same exact point. It's going to do an entirely different thing, because unless it's exactly the same down to every variable, it's going to be different because of how sensitive that system is. The two pendulums relying, their movements are linked, you know? If something is slightly off about the initial condition of one of them, it's going to greatly alter the final result. And there are great videos kind of lining up double pendulums and how greatly their paths diverge, considering how similar their starting outcomes are. And they do a great job of displaying this. Maybe the camera work could have been better to actually show the water in the moment, but Jeff Goldblum's character drops water on Laura Dern's character's hand. He's like, which way do you think it's going to roll? She's like, this way. And it goes that way. He goes, okay, I'm going to wipe your hand off and I'm going to drop it in the same exact spot. Where's it going to go? She's like, oh, the same way. And it goes a different way. And he explains, like, it's because of like your blood vessels and the state of the hair on your hand, all these things, all of these small things. It's like a butterfly flapping its wing. It flaps its wing in China, you get a tornado in Oklahoma, you know. And we kind of talked about the butterfly effect then, and you referenced that. This makes a lot more sense if you've seen the Ashton Kutcher movie. But when you try to apply that to this movie, when you try to apply chaos theory to this movie, I don't think that it necessarily applies well to the situation that they're in. Because it's, to me, that in chaos theory and the idea of something, I guess an easier way to word this is to kind of talk about what the movie kind of does instead. And it reminds me a lot of Interstellar, and how Interstellar is largely focused around Murphy's Law, or at least what the commonly said explanation of Murphy's Law is. From my understanding, Murphy's Law is different from what we widely refer to it as. But for the sake of what Interstellar does and what it's widely referred to as, it's what can go wrong will go wrong. And that kind of feels like what's applied in Jurassic Park, where he's like, nature finds a way. There are so many ways this can go wrong, it's going to go wrong. Whereas if you apply it from more of a chaos theory sense, and maybe I'm totally missing something, but it feels like from a chaos theory sense, it would be if they have multiple Jurassic Parks and they're like, well, it worked fine the first time, you know, and they try and do it again, and then it goes wrong, you know, because like there's Nedry's involved. Like that's the slight difference. Or like, oh, one of the gates went down for a second because of this thing, you know, the butterfly effect. It's like, oh, okay, we had a mosquito land on a dinosaur over here, which made it itch itself, which set it back a second, which led to it not getting eaten at this point, which led to this thing happening, which led to this thing ramming into an electrical panel, which led to the power going out, which led to this whole thing. Like, you know, it feels like there's more potential if we're seeing alternate scenarios, or like, you know, we're presented with more opportunities for that stuff to see how it could have gone right. But in this scenario, it just felt like it's due to happen because it's going to go wrong, because everything bad that can happen will happen. And that's something that when I think about this movie, that's like one of the first things I think of is how it applies chaos theory.
That's really interesting.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And that's all we have for this.
No, it's really interesting. I didn't know anything about chaos theory. The double pendulum thing was interesting. Obviously, the butterfly effect I'd heard of, Murphy's Law I'd heard of, but it's interesting to hear it all applied to this movie. And if you didn't really know and you didn't do anything else besides just listen to Jeff Goldblum's character in the movie, you don't need anything else to understand it. And like, so it's just interesting how it kind of adds to my appreciation of it all.
Yeah. It feels like they kind of they accurately explain chaos theory in it, but then it feels like they just kind of took the name, oh, it has chaos in it, bad stuff's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that all being said, I want to ask you, CJ, do you have any favorite parts in this movie? Like any favorite scenes, any favorite moments, any favorite performances?
When Timmy gets sent 15 feet back, 40 feet backwards in a straight line to the ground. When we were watching it, I was laughing so fucking hard. I was explaining to someone that I was laughing so hard I almost cried, and they couldn't figure out what scene made me laugh that hard. And I'm like,
I couldn't believe you were laughing that hard, and like it was, I got a kick of how much you thought it was hilarious.
Because like it's such a Muppety performance to just go ah, and then get sent 40 feet back. Because like if you look at it, right, because the way that they did the shot, because they basically did two shots or three shots. They have the shot of the camera from the ground looking up at Timmy on the thing, right? They have the shot of Sam Neill on the ground with the girl, I forget her name.
Like, I'll catch you. I'll catch you.
Then
Lex is
he's
the
like, I'm
name.
going to climb up there and get him, right? Then there's the shot on the other side of the fence looking at Timmy being like, I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump. And he's like, I'll catch you. But when he says that, he's the way that it is, because it's a tight shot of the kid through the fence, and you can see Sam Neill and Lex in the background. So to be in the background of the shot in a tight of the kid, and it's not a top-down shot, he has to be 40 feet behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that. I'm like, I'll catch you. You're like 30 feet. And then he goes, whoa! It was such a, I was like, I'm pretty sure when you get shocked with that many volts, your body like locks up and you just can't let go, which is obviously not funny. It would be sad that the kid just basically died wrapped in this fucking thing, and any attempt to get him down would result in you also shocking yourself until they turned the fence off, which they wouldn't have been able to do, and he would have just cooked. But no, he gets launched back. And then they're doing CPR to revive him, which wasn't funny, but I couldn't stop myself. That was the most ridiculous thing. In a movie about dinosaurs that come back to life, that was the most preposterous thing that they included in the movie.
Not only were you laughing while they were trying to give him CPR, you were just dying during an entire sequence where Laura Dern is being chased by velociraptors.
I guess I couldn't stop. I couldn't breathe.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was incredible. How about any favorite performances in the movie?
Oh, Laura Dern. Laura Dern can do no wrong. The kids were annoying. The whole premise for the kids being there was dumb. Sam Neill's fatherly instinct thing kicking in was dumb. I don't know. Basically,
man,
Jeff Goldblum.
The fact he had a character arc, so dumb.
It's not really a character arc. The kid, it's the development that he now likes kids after being in hell for a night. Fuck you. That's not a character arc. That's like saying I got PTSD because I survived Alien. That's not character development. That's trauma. Like,
hey man, sometimes everyone needs a little trauma. I'm always saying that.
I don't suddenly like kids because I don't want to feed this one to a T-Rex. Nah, fuck that. Fuck you. That's not character development. Like nobody learned a lesson. The only one that learned a lesson was fucking Richard Hammond, or John Hammond, Richard Attenborough, who's like, yeah, I should have done this. I'm sorry. But as evidenced by the fact that there are now 5 sequels to this movie, none of them ever do that. None of them ever stop. They just keep going.
I do want to talk about the sequels just a little bit, because you said that you haven't seen any of them.
I know nothing about the sequels.
The first thing I want to ask is, before we really get into a second question I have about the sequels, what do you think happens with the shaving cream?
Okay, so there is this thought that, like, oh, somebody finds them, and then somebody takes them and makes dinosaurs. That's like the most easy. It's like a Chekhov's gun, right? Like, we talked about it, now it has to pay off.
Right.
Can I tell you what I actually think happens?
Yeah.
It ends up as a bauble on somebody's fucking curio cabinet. It ends up as a fucking beer can in someone's man cave.
Okay.
That's what I think. It's a fucking prop. They're never going to pay it off, right?
Can I spoil for you what happens with it?
Yeah.
You never see it again.
You never see it again?
Never. In any of the sequels. Never.
Wow.
Right?
That's so crazy.
Isn't that? I believe there were originally plans to, but I think they just ended up not using it at all in any of the sequels. There is a Telltale Jurassic Park game, and that game, it's not canon. That game addresses it and kind of deals with the shaving cream can. But then there is a Jurassic Park kids animated show that came out in the last decade. I can't recall the name off the top of my head. It's Camp something. That actually has to do with the shaving cream can.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, in any of the actual like main installments, never seen again, never addressed.
That's really lame.
Right? And I was thinking about it after we watched this movie, and I was like, man, It's so funny because I can't remember if it was in the Muppets or just a conversation we had like recently, CJ. We were talking about Chekhov's gun. And you were like, I just remember you saying something like, if you show me a fucking gun, you better fucking use it. Like, you got like kind of heated about it. I was like, oh, CJ's going to love to hear that never comes back.
Yeah. No, it's just dumb. It's that's like, there's movies that come out that are like part 1 and then they never get a part 2. Like, that's so arrogant. Yeah, we're going to name this movie part 1. Ain't going to get you a sequel, buddy. That ain't gonna get you a sequel. Or like, my favorite example of that is it's a joke on the premise, right? It's History of the World Part 1. It's a Mel Brooks film. They did it on purpose, but I love all the ones that do it unintentionally. Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's something about the hubris. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So speaking of sequels, I want to ask, what do you think the premise for Jurassic Park 2 would be? It's called Jurassic Park Lost World.
Can I know who the principal actor in the movie is?
So I believe, let me pull it up. Jurassic Park Lost World. I believe Jeff Goldblum's back in it. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's back.
Okay.
Richard Attenborough's back. But they're the only returning characters.
Well, most of the other characters died.
Well, like, you don't have Sam Neill. You don't have Laura Dern. Instead, you have Julianne Moore and Vince Vaughn.
Is it a comedy?
No.
They have Vince Vaughn. Does he get eaten?
All right. Ready? I'm going to tell you the premise of this movie in 4 words.
Okay.
Dinosaurs in... Oh, fuck. Wait, where is it? I was going to say New York, but it might be San Diego. Dinosaurs in San Diego.
Okay. How do they get to San Diego?
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure it's something like they're making another island.
In San Diego?
No. They're making another island. They like capture some and they ship them. I don't know. I honestly, it's been a while. It's been a long time.
Okay.
But yeah, dinosaurs in San Diego.
Okay. And the third one is
back on another island.
Okay.
Now, you talked about the idea of this premise overstaying its welcome. And I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't, you know. But
yeah.
The other movies have their moments. And I don't know, when I watched the sequels, at least Jurassic Park 2 and 3 a while ago, I didn't like them initially, but the more I've sat with them, the more I've enjoyed them with time. I actually saw Jurassic Park 3 in theaters when it came out when I was really little.
Okay.
And I, of course, loved it then. But after like seeing them again, like as a teenager, I was like, those weren't as great. But as I sit with them, I'm like, they have their moments. I think the third kind of delivers more than the second, at least for what I remember. The third has some really great moments, just at least visually.
Well, in the third one, isn't the whole thing, it's like the return to form? Like the second one's the departure from the premise.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I had a film class, and I had this bit about Taken, that all Liam Neeson does is make Taken over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only role that he gets, or movies that he makes. So like, this is Taken on a plane. This is Taken on a train. This is Taken in the Arctic. This is Taken in the city. And at the time, I had said, I was in class, and I said, I'm not trying to stop this plane. I'm not trying to destroy this plane. I'm trying to save it. And obviously nobody ever believes him. And he has to like use his like secret covert operative shit to like save the plane. But that line is like a few weeks later, a trailer came out for a movie called Non-Stop. And that line is in the trailer. I'm not trying to destroy this plane. I'm trying to save it. and I'm like, oh my god, I've peaked.
You did it. You did it.
Like, so like, this is Jurassic Park on an island. This is Jurassic Park in San Diego. This is dinosaurs in space. This is dinosaurs on a bigger island. This is dinosaurs on the world. This is dinosaurs in a canyon. It's like, okay, why are there dinosaurs? Why did we make a dinosaur canyon? Okay, we're just going to keep trotting out these people. Although I got to say, Bryce Dallas Howard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Her name, phenomenal.
Sweet Jurassic series alum.
Yeah,
yeah,
she's great. I know that she's in like the later movie, I think.
Yes, she's in. I've only seen Jurassic World. I haven't seen its sequels, but I'm pretty sure she's in all 3 of those. Yeah, that's her famous line from one of them.
Yeah. She just breaks down in the fetal position and goes, na, 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 na.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at the show notes,
and
I see that we're over an hour. But we wrote CJ can't smell.
Yeah, we talked about that. We mentioned that in advance. In the pre-show that he was like, oh yeah, by the way, CJ can't smell, and we're like, yeah, we'll get back on that. So I wrote that down so we wouldn't forget.
Okay. Yeah, I can't smell. Is there a follow-up question?
No, I don't think so. One final thing, we can kind of disregard the other stuff in the show notes, but one thing I thought of that I wanted to mention is you talked about the premise overstaying its welcome. Isn't it kind of crazy that there's no other big dinosaur franchises? I feel like dinosaurs are so underrepresented in media.
There's a Simpsons bit where Skinner describes his script for a movie and like Apu rips him apart because it's a very popular movie that he's basically ripping off. I basically don't know how you can make a dinosaur movie. This is the dinosaur movie. You know, it's the preeminent. Like, how do you make a vampire movie that isn't like? How do you make we're gonna make a monster out of a corpse and put the wrong brain in that isn't Frankenstein, right? How do you tell werewolf without it being like the werewolf that we know? Like, how do you put your own spin on it?
Yes, but the thing is, though, is each of those examples you just gave, and like even other ones like Jaws, like I can name other movies that have done that. I just saw this week, I saw Poor Things, which is kind of a Frankenstein, kind of a Frankenstein-esque idea. And werewolves, like I've seen a good handful of werewolf movies. You have American Werewolf in London, and you have the movie Cursed from like 2004. You have Jaws. You have you also have like Deep Blue Sea. You have Open Water. You have The Shallows. You have the Meg. You have Sharknado. You have
Sharknado. Yeah, there you go.
And then Alien is the Alien movie. But you have, I could name a billion Alien movies. You know.
Yeah.
But I struggle to name, like, okay, you got Jurassic Park. 65 came out just this past year, but like. It's not very good, but like I can't think of really many other dinosaur movies. I feel like it's just especially for how popular dinosaurs are.
I mean, it's got to be. I mean, I think of like cartoons, like We're Back or They're Back or the dinosaur Disney movie, right?
Or Land Before Time.
Land Before Time. I think there's a cost. It has to be cost related, right? I mean,
that's a good point.
The effect of making dinosaurs feel real, like, okay, not to go back to Killers of the Flower Moon, but like I was listening to an interview. It's just like, why would we make a police procedural? Everybody else does it better. Everybody else has done this better. You know, how can I make it interesting, right? That's like something that they faced when they were adapting the book for screen. It's the same thing. Jurassic Park does it so good. Why do you need to do it? You know? Now, the other 5 movies, I can't speak to how good that they do it, but like I can see now it's sort of a Sisyphusian task to outdo Jurassic Park. And how do you do it better? You know?
Yeah. I think something as well, like you talked about the cost. Like this movie, getting back to the special effects and whatnot, it truly is a incredible moment in movie history where I think before in the pre-show you said it's going to be a moment where like you have just a combination of all the technologies, just working together in harmony. And that's kind of what it is, because you have animatronics, you have stop motion, and you have CGI all used in combination in the production of this movie. It's truly amazing that it turned out the way it did. And first off, that requires a big budget in its own, and it's not something that can be easily reproduced. Whereas like Alien, you can have so many different takes on what an alien looks like, how big they are, all that kind of stuff. Jaws, like a shark is, much more easy to produce on film than these enormous creatures who lived millions of years ago that would require a big CGI budget and stuff like that. So I do think that plays into things. That was a good point that you brought up.
Yeah, I can't imagine somebody else trying to come up to this and being like, we're going to make a dinosaur movie in concert and with the same sort of sophistication and effect and not have it be I mean, what source, especially because everything's an adaptation, what source material is there for dinosaurs? Like this is based on a book, even if the franchise isn't all books, it's like, what source material is there that is not utilized or optioned?
Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? Why make new stories when you got so many existing IP? We don't,
Yeah, there you go.
I think we should have, in my opinion, we should have like 2 IP at most.
Just 2.
Yeah, just 2. Well, I think that's a good point to get to our favorite segment. CJ, was the film okie dokie?
The film is okie dokie. That's 2 thumbs up for me.
That's one okie dokie from me, 1 okie dokie from you. So that's 2 okie dokies out of 2, which means that this film has won. It is certified okie dokie, or no, the Smoky Artichoke Award.
Yeah, there you go. The okie dokie Smoky Artichoke. The soda award.
Ooh, I like that.
You didn't like it last week.
But last time I said last time. Yeah, I've grown. It's grown on me.
You like the soda award?
It's grown on me. Yeah, the soda award.
The Smoky Okie Dokie Artichoke Award.
Oh wait, no, I don't like it anymore. I've soured on it again.
All right. So now it is the time where we announce what the next movie we're going to watch is.
Now, I just want to say, CJ, we have not actually come to an agreement on this. Last time we workshopped, we talked about a few options. Do you actually know what we're going to do next time?
Because do you trust me to do this live?
I do trust you to do this live.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So I actually did make a decision. I wasn't going to tell you. But in keeping with our series, this is the first part of our 2-part series on air vents.
Okay.
It feels only fitting given the amount of time that Sam Neill and the 2 children that nobody cares about, and Laura Dern, especially Laura Dern and her shorts, spent in the air vent. And when he fucking kicked the dinosaur, that also made me laugh.
Oh, that was a great moment.
Comedy. Yeah. We are going to watch Die Hard next week as
no way.
As the conclusion on our 2-part series on air vents. It is
perfect.
It is also seasonal, I feel. It's wintry, somebody, to be honest, the only reason I want to watch Die Hard, I think you've seen it, right? Obviously, I've seen it.
Yes, yeah.
So this is going to be a movie that we both seen. So I'm going to be a little more critical this time. It's going to be a little bit of a different time of episode, which is the other reason I wanted to try this out, because how would it go if we both seen it? Spoiler alert, we're going to try one in the near future where neither of us have seen it.
We are?
Yes.
Well, I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And so we'll get the full range of experience. But anyway, I think it was What If Season 2, which I haven't finished yet, but I'm going to. I have one episode left.
Same.
Yeah. I went from watching every day to being distracted.
That's it. Next week, we're watching Season 2, season finale of What If.
All right, we're going to do a supplemental episode. Just the finale, though. Anyway, yeah, so I want to see how it'll go when we both seen it. It's going to be continuing in our series about airbends. What am I reaching for and I forgot? Oh, I was
something TV dinner.
So the whole reason I want to watch Die Hard is because in the season 2 of What If, they make a joke about Reginald Vell Johnson, and I'm like, oh god, I haven't seen that movie in so long. I want to watch it. I think it was the lady from Two Broke Girls, Darcy.
Yeah, Darcy.
Darcy talking to Happy Hogan.
The entire episode is a parody of Die Hard, so it's perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to see Die Hard. I think that I like this one the best. I think that this one also, because the other ones are just Die Hard in different places.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like Die Hard in New York.
We
Die Hard on a plane.
Yeah, we will for sure have to talk about our experiences and histories with the Die Hard franchise next time as well.
Yeah, we will for sure. But all right, I have been CJ.
And I've been Tommy. I wasn't sure if you were going to do that for me or not.
No, I'm going to let you do it.
Okay, I'm Tommy.
Yeah. And this has been The Film is Okie Dokie. So far, 2 films have been Okie Dokie.
2 out of 2, baby.
2 out of 2, baby. And yeah, next time on the podcast, we'll be watching Die Hard. So thank you for listening. As always, you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Like, rate, subscribe, mash the bell, do all the things that you do to support us so that we can keep making this fun show. We're going to stop making it when it's not fun, and it may not be fun forever if nobody listens to it. So listen to the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the show, and we will see you next time.